Chapter -11, Isla and Filthy. Just in case you don't know how to spell Isla, it's Eyela. And that's why they make the jokes about the Eye of Mordor. So, chapter -11 by Minnow. By the way, said Mum, Vanessa thinks Frank is skipping classes. He's not, is he? I pulled a face. As if. I should tell you that Frank is not only my only cousin, he's my best friend. Vanessa's my favourite aunt, but sometimes she worries too much. I hope you're not playing truant, said Dad. Of course not. Frank's not either. This was a tiny white lie. Well, two, actually, but I didn't want us to get into trouble. Frank hated Isla and the Overlord so much that he sometimes hid in our secret treehouse with his laptop, building our computer game. The truth is that sometimes I joined him. Maybe Vanessa got it wrong, said Mum. I've got to go, I said. The Frankster and I have got to get ready for our big thing. Mum looked absent-minded. That'll be nice, she said. Nice? It's going to get us killed. We're only doing it because the Eye of Moron insisted. Decca told her how good we are. You and Frank are good, said Mum. Who cares? Isla will go on, and it will make everyone hate us. So what's the point? You'll be great, said Dad. The whole school will tease us. Oh, go on, said Mum, and keep an eye out for Sky and Ben. A big pus-filled eye? No, said Mum. A nice clear fish eye. Now off you go. Half an hour before our 5 minutes of fame, I met Frank near the school's clock tower. Frank's a loner and doesn't like hanging around in a group. Neither of us do, really. Where have you been? He asked. We've still got to set up. Dad cooked breakfast, I said. Frank shook his head. And you couldn't miss that, could you? I laughed. Never. Frank groaned. To get to the assembly hall, we took our secret way, around behind the hedge that runs alongside the school's clock tower. Suddenly we heard someone saying, "Stop it!" We stood as still as we could so that we wouldn't be seen behind the hedge. 2 kids were standing on the other side. They were dressed in red and they looked miserable. Overlord Thieve was next to the children, wearing his weird white church gown and his stupid hat. Mum says he dresses like that because he loves power and status. As he stared down at the 2 orphans, I wished that one of the monsters from our computer game would swoop down and fly away with him. Get a move on, snarled Overlord Thieve, grabbing the boy by the collar of his tracksuit. Stop it, said the girl. You're hurting him. The Overlord grabbed the girl by the scruff of the neck as well. You'll be very quiet if you know what's good for you, he growled in a low voice. Both of you need to learn a few manners. Now keep up. With that, he dragged them off. The boy nearly fell over, and as we watched, the girl stumbled as well. When she tripped, she accidentally hit into the back of the Overlord. He turned around and drew back his hand, looking as if he was going to slap the girl, but at the last minute he stopped. How dare you, he hissed, looking around to see if anyone had seen him threaten the girl. Next time you'll feel the sting of my hand. I felt sick in my stomach as Isla appeared, dressed in white and looking totally stressed. What's going on? She snapped. These idiots are acting up, said the Overlord, same as usual. Now listen to me, Bowsaw, hissed Isla. One wrong move and you'll be put into isolation all weekend. Hear me? The children nodded. And don't cry today, Isla continued. Yes, your parents died, boo-hoo, but if I see you crying, you'll pay for it. Understood? Ben and Sky nodded again and then looked down. I felt so sorry for them. Who would ever be able to bear living with the thieves? Now, Go with the Overlord and do as you're told, said Isla. Remember, one wrong move. Frank shook his head. What's Bowsaw? I whispered to Frank. Who knows? She's such a freak, he whispered, and filthy, so filthy. The thieves are what Frank and I call unhinged, or as Frank says, they might have been houses once, but all their doors have fallen off, the roof's gone, and we're waiting for the walls to crash to the ground. They both dress in white, and even though our school is nothing to do with religion, the Overlord always wears his ridiculous gown and strange-looking hat that it's a bit like a bishop's hat. We hate the thieves. Pretty much everyone does. They bully all the students, especially the kids who live in the youth centre. Mum's right. It's more like an old-fashioned orphanage. Chapter -10.10. A Heart for Every Child. Still written by Minnow. The thieves are so cruel, but they act as if they've been sent to our school from heaven. So many adults can't see how fake they are, but most of the children know. Children are like that. They always know when a person is cruel. So do dogs and cats. Anyway, Frank and I have always known that the thieves are cruel. The way they treat the children at the centre is a dead giveaway. The only times the orphans are allowed to come anywhere near the main school is on assembly days. At all other times, they are treated as if there is something wrong with them. They're made to feel completely different to the rest of us. I've met those kids, whispered Frank. Who are they? The Walkers, said Frank, looking casual, but I could tell that he loved knowing something that I didn't. Dad's going to teach them how to use indigo dye. Will Isla let him teach them? It's not up to her, said Frank. Decca set it up. I so love Decca, I said. Me too, said Frank. So, Uncle Jim is going to teach Ben and Sky, I said. Excellent. We walked along for a bit in silence. Then I asked, does the girl spell her name with an E? I don't know. Why? Remember that dream I had a couple of weeks ago? Frank pulled a face. You have dreams every second day. I do not. Anyway, it was the one that turned into a nightmare. I told you about it. Sky must die was written in fireworks, and the word sky definitely had an E. Frank shrugged. You'll have to ask her. I rolled my eyes. What would I say? Does your name have an E on the end? Oh, and by the way, if it does, you're going to die. Frank shook his head, looking over at the kids who were standing outside the assembly hall with Filthy. Man, they look sad. I nodded. The Walker children looked so morose, and somehow as if they were from another world. The girl had long red hair, and the boy's was black and wild. They were probably about 10 or 11, or maybe 12, the same as us. I'm 10, and Frank's just turned 12. Imagine having to live in Isla's Centre for the Lost and Lonely, I said. That's what too many car accidents will do to you, said Frank. I nodded. I know, I said. So Harry Potter. Frank grinned. That's what I thought. I smiled. Great minds do think alike. Frank looked serious. Actually, it was really bad. Their mum was killed by a train crashing into her car years ago, and the same thing happened to their dad earlier this year. Mum told me. So bad. I blushed, feeling terrible for making a joke about it. Yeah, said Frank. The girl went into a coma. Imagine not being able to wake up, I said. The worst, said Frank. But then he patted me on the back and added, Come on, sound check. Together we slipped into the assembly hall through the side door. As we jumped onto the stage, Decca said, Hey, I've got it up a bit louder than Her Ladyship likes it, but we can't have the masters played too quietly, can we? Nope, I said, sliding in behind the drum kit. Dad used to play this song when I was little, and it was always loud. As it should be, said Decca. I laughed, flicking my long plait down my back. Frank picked up his guitar and made a wild noise, just because he could. He then started the slow strumming that begins the song. I did a quick fill on the drums. Decca nodded. We were ready. Proud of you guys, he whispered. Frank and I beamed. We would have followed Decca to Mars and back if he'd asked us to.